The following audio may contain the personal testimonials of some independent Optavia coaches or clients of Optavia. The results relayed in these messages are based on the unique experiences of the participants, and we cannot guarantee like or similar outcomes. While you may be inspired by these accounts, please note that any stories of success have not been verified, and your individual path to healthy living and weight loss will vary. As always, it is our recommendation that you consult with a healthcare provider before starting a weight loss program. In addition, this audio may contain income or earnings representations of some independent Optavia coaches. Optavia makes no guarantee of financial success. Success with Optavia results from successful sales efforts, which requires hard work, diligence, skill, persistence, competence, and leadership. Please see the Optavia income disclosure statement for statistics on actual earnings of coaches under the U.S. compensation plan, which differs from the international compensation plan. Yours in health, the Optavia team.
Welcome everyone to the Habits of Health call. We are so excited for the holidays and for this season where we're celebrating family and friends and so many great times to celebrate. And we just wanted to welcome everybody onto the call, whether you are an Optavia client, an Optavia coach, one of our health professionals, or maybe you're just looking into what Optavia is all about. So no matter where you're coming from, we're glad that you're here joining us. And we just want everyone to know how to find us. So you can find us on the Optavia YouTube channel or on the Optavia podcast channel under Optavia Habits of Health. So let's jump in to our topic for this week. So our topic is one of my favorite things, which is learning all about inflammation. Now, I remember 11 years ago when I first started as an Optavia coach and learning about inflammation from Dr. A's Habits of Health book. And it just made so much sense. I just had huge aha moments on how this really is affecting society as a whole and me personally. Just my personal story with inflammation. Ever since I was a teenager, I dealt with a lot of pain in my legs, pain in my back, headaches, feeling really tired, and not always understanding where that was coming from. So when I personally read the chapter in the book that was all about inflammation, just a light bulb went off in my head. And it was really an empowering moment because I felt like now that I had this information, now that I understood what was going on, I felt very empowered to be able to do everything that I could to improve my overall health and reduce my overall inflammation. So let's go ahead and dive into our topic. So Element 20 in the Life book is all about maximizing your anti-inflammation protection. And we're going to explore a little bit about why your immune system is so important to your optimal health. We're going to identify where and how inflammation could be showing up in your life. You may not even have realized it. And also we're going to evaluate opportunities to reduce inflammation in your environment. So these are the action steps. This is what you can do to really make a big difference. So first off, why is your immune system so important to optimal health? And I love how Dr. A really references that all 6 macro habits are affected by inflammation in our immune system. So our healthy weight management affects the levels of inflammation that we may see in our body, or potential for inflammation. Our eating and our hydration are both macro habits that affect our inflammation, our whether or not we're moving our body, whether or not we're getting proper sleep, how we're stressing or dealing with stress in our life, and also our surroundings. So we're going to be going through each one of these and really giving you some awesome tips that will help you to reduce the overall inflammation in your life and also start boosting your immune system. So first off, let's talk a little bit about how this is all connected. So there is a cycle that we see, and it really is a huge factor. But before that, okay, I want to talk a little bit about what inflammation is. So sometimes we get this idea in our head that, inflammation is like swelling. Oh, I sprained my ankle, or I got a cut or a bruise, and your body is, it's almost like you're 24/7 on call emergency service. Okay. And this is a huge benefit that we have, that our body says, hey, there's something going on. It's not good. We need to send some white blood cells. We need to send some fighters to go and help. Kind of like if you think about, if you call 911, they're going to send the ambulance. Okay, something's wrong. I need help, and send those paramedics my way. So that's really what our bodies do. Okay, and this is good, and this is a helper in our lives. Good thing, right? That our body repairs that sprained ankle or that cut or what's going on. But there's a dark side to this as well. And this is where it starts getting a little bit not so good, is when we have this constant stress, when we have these constant little trickles of emergency going on in our body, and those 24/7 on-call paramedics or white blood cells are kind of always going everywhere and going, wait, is there an emergency over here? Is there an emergency over here? And it's just like little, and it's overactive. Our immune system gets overactive. And so this is the darker side of our immune system. And an overactive immune system is just trickling tiny little inflammatory biochemicals throughout our entire bodies. And what happens is this is affecting our blood vessels. This can be affecting our joints, can be affecting our brain. And at first it kind of shows up like maybe you're just tired. And or maybe your skin just, it looks like tired and saggy and not good color, but it can go all the way, Dr. A talks about, all the way to the other side of big problems like cancer and stroke and Alzheimer's and metabolic syndrome. So it's okay, and it's good when there's acute problems for our immune system to be on high alert and send paramedics. But when it's constant and all the time and little amounts throughout our whole body, then this is what's called a chronic problem. And chronic inflammation can be a huge issue for so many of us. So it starts with some stress. And Dr. A talks about the oxidative stress. It could be in the food we eat, in our environment, things like this. And our body will send those oxygen radicals or free radicals in our body. And like I said, the free radicals can be a good thing when it's fighting an acute problem, when it's sent in to attack something that's not supposed to be there. But when it becomes this vicious cycle of constant stress, constant free radicals, which turns into constant inflammation, and that inflammation increases the oxidative stress, which increases the oxygen radicals, which increases the inflammation, and we have this like death spiral, which is not good for anybody. So we're going to break down each of these three major components or contributors to this cycle, which is our food, our external environment, and our internal environment, and really kind of look into this and deep dive a little bit more. But before we do that, I want to bring on my friend, Mindy Sumption, who is a grandmother. She's a mother of 7 and a grandmother of 13. And I would just love for you, Mindy, to share a little bit about your story with being a client of Optavia and also with your experience with this cycle. Are you there, Mindy?
Yes, thank you, Amber. I'm here. Thanks for this
Awesome.
opportunity to be on this call. I'm really excited to share a little bit about my journey.
So tell us where it all started.
Well, I would have to say it started probably in my 30s, 30 or 40s. Late 30s. I just started having chronic pain all the time. Just a lot of inflammation in all of my joints. And at times, I literally was bedridden. Sometimes I'd be up in the morning, get the kids off to school, and then just spend the rest of the day in bed. And so that was a really dark time for me. I tried to stay as active as possible, but you can only do so much when your pain is so intense. And then it starts playing havoc on your mind and all of that. So I went through a time where it was just really just a lot of pain. And I started going to doctors and trying to find out what's wrong with me. And conclusively, they really didn't know, other than they just clumped it in the category of, you must have fibromyalgia. And they would say, here, have this prescription, try this. And I just didn't want to go that route. So I began swimming. And I thought, I'm just going to swim it away. And that was really the only time I didn't feel pain, was when I was in the water. It was so wonderful. But obviously, you can't stand the water all day. So it just helped to delay the pain. And I remember about 8 years ago, I just thought, I'm tired of this identity of just, I have fibromyalgia. I'm always in pain. I can't do this or I can't do that because it hurts too much. And so I went on a crusade, if you will. I thought, all right, this is ridiculous. We live in a day and age where there's so many answers out there. And I remember going on a trip to Virginia to visit one of our daughters. And I was in so much pain the next day from all the traveling, so much inflammation. And she said, well, let's just go to the chiropractor. And I went, and he was a holistic chiropractor. And he diagnosed me. He said, well, your problem is just you have massive inflammations, and you can control that by what you eat. Do you realize that was the first doctor that I had talked to that had that kind of an answer for me? And he came back in the room and he said, here's an 8.5 by 11, and it had a column. It was broken into two. One column was what to eat, and the other column is what not to eat. And this column was just maybe about 4 or 5 lines, just complete rabbit food. And this column was like, what not to eat. And so I thought, okay, I'm going to give it a try, because I've never had anybody tell me I need to watch what I eat. And so I came home and tried it, and it lasted for about 3 or 4 days, because it's like, really? Lettuce and carrots and celery? And so I just kept looking, and I told people, any doctor, any kind of a treatment, anything you hear of, tell me. And so I would try one procedure after another. I was just really determined. But most importantly, what I found was I opened my mind to alternatives. And I think that's when the answers really, really started coming, because my second daughter, Chantel Flake, who is also an Optavia coach, actually you are her mentor coach, she came home one day and said, Mom, I'm going to health coach with this program that Amber has introduced me to. Will you be one of my first clients and just consider, we're just going to do an interested call and just see if it's a good fit. I said, well, of course, I will do anything to support you. And you know what kind of a crusade I'm on, so it's a win-win. Let's give it a try. So I remember, do you remember that call, Amber? So we did the interested call, and it was like, this sounds like something I need to try. And I literally signed up right then and there. And I tried the program for about 2.5 months. And I became a coach, and it just within about 2.5 months, I just kept just living the habits of health and just fine tuning them a little bit more and a little bit more, to the point that I lost 32 pounds. Yeah. So I found that for me, this was my answer. I've never looked back, and I've just been so, so, so grateful for Optavia, and have wanted to share that with everyone, because I know other people are really struggling.
Oh my goodness, Mindy, I love what you said. And I think the biggest key is so many times when I heard you, when you were like on your crusade to find like the thing, that what it ended up being was the habits of health. It's all these things. It wasn't one thing. It wasn't that you could only eat celery. It was many things. Is that what I'm hearing?
So true.
So very true. Okay, so we've learned a little bit about oxidative stress, and we've learned a little bit about the oxygen radicals that come into your body and the inflammation and that cycle. So let's just talk a little bit about like what foods. I like your chiropractor, what not to do. Let's do a little bit of that, Mindy. What not to
Right.
do.
Yeah.
So
Yes.
with the food, a high intake of calories, refined grains and sugars, high fructose corn syrup, all the trans fats and the overcooked charred foods. These are the what not to do, okay, that contribute to those, that your body sending in those free radicals to fight it. And then our external environment, what not to do. Expose yourself to the chemicals and toxins and high stress and allergens and going to the tanning beds and exposure to radiation. It's hard on you, right?
Right.
So true. And then the external environment, what not to do. Just chronic infections, visceral body fat around your middle, lack of sleep, not exercising. So there's so many things that play in. And this is really interesting to me. The standard American diet, SAD, standard American diet. So it's sad, right?
Very sad.
Pretty sad that 70% of the standard American diet is made up of foods that promote inflammation. When I heard this, it was like a huge aha moment.
It really is an aha it was for me too, Amber, because as I went through that journey, I recognized there are really three main culprits that create inflammation for me. And that was dairy, sugar, and carbs. And as long as I could watch those and keep those at a minimal, it made a huge difference.
I love that. I love that, Mindy. And then the other 30%, only 10% of the standard American diet is like vegetables and fruits and nuts and beans and whole grain, like these healthy things.
Yeah.
And it's not surprising that so many of us are dealing with metabolic syndrome and these inflammatory states and diseases that come along with it. And one of the things that I really loved from the education from Dr. A's Habits of Health Transformational System was how he's giving us some clues. So within, like, just take your fats, because fats are important and essential for our body. Our body can't create those. We need to ingest them. And he breaks it up into omega-3s, which are more of the anti-inflammatory sources of fat, things like flaxseed and olive oil and salmon, soybeans and tofu. And this is interesting because when you break something down, when you process it too much, it goes into that omega-6 category, which those are the inflammatory areas. So you take a soybean, which is a healthy bean and a good source of omega-3 fatty acids, and you process it down to soybean oil, and all of a sudden it becomes inflammatory. So it's so interesting to me. And Dr. A says we want to keep no more than a 4-to-1 ratio of 4 of the inflammatory to 1 of the anti-inflammatory, but the best case scenario would be 1-to-1. And it's so important too to realize that even something that's really good for you, like an omega-3 oil, is a good thing. It's good for you, right? It's good for your brain health. It's good for your hair,
You
skin,
need
nails.
a certain amount of it, right? Yes.
Exactly, Mindy. You need a certain amount. And if you have too much of a good thing, it can turn into a bad thing. It can turn into that visceral adiposity, fat around your middle, which is setting your internal environment up for inflammation right from the get-go. And that was one thing I heard from you is as your body lost that weight, I think it was also more able to really take advantage of some of these anti-inflammatory tips that we're going to be giving. Would you agree with that?
Oh, totally agree.
Definitely. Okay. So let's give some food tips. What do you say?
Oh, yeah.
Let's talk about what not to do.
Mm-hmm.
Let's talk about what to do. So food tips. First one, nix the Barbie. Like if you're barbecuing food, that's great. You can throw some chicken on the barbecue. We're not saying you can't do that, but don't char it until it's black. Not a good idea. Those carcinogens and that blackness, it's inflammatory properties are going to be negative on your health. We already talked about the omega-3 oils. Those are good things, but in the right amount, so we're not having that extra belly fat happening. Low glycemic fruits and vegetables are going to promote anti-inflammatory properties in your body. Having more fiber. Don't reuse oils. I guess I should have put this on the what not to do, but avoid reusing oils. Just like I talked about that soybean, and then when it gets processed down to soybean oil, it's inflammatory. When you reuse oils, the same thing happens.
Right.
In fact, this was a tip that as I was reviewing the information again that I had forgotten, is that you should use fresh oils, like fresh olive oil, and you should only buy a small amount that you would use in about a month or two, that time frame, 1 to 2 months.
Wow, that's a great tip.
Right? Because guess what I do? Costco size.
Yes, I'm guilty of that too. I totally got to change this, Amber.
I couldn't go through that in a year.
I also understand it's important to store those kind of oils in a dark glass.
Exactly, Mindy. Such a good tip. Not right next to the stove, in a dark, cooler place.
Yes.
So good. And cooking with herbs and spices that are really going to boost those anti-inflammatory properties.
And the sky's the limit with that, right? I mean, wow. Herbs and spices.
Absolutely. Let's talk about some environment tips. So let's lower our exposure to toxins. So smog and pollution, bacteria and mold. Maybe get a HEPA filter in your office or in your home that's going to really clean that air, especially if you live like downtown somewhere and right in the heart of high traffic, or really being conscious of that is going to be important to you. And let's talk about drinking clean water. We want to make sure not everybody has super good water sources right from their home. Maybe getting a filter for your water. The best one, Dr. A says, is a reverse osmosis filter. But honestly, let's just drink lots of water. Let's start there, and then we go to the next level, right?
Right. Yeah. Fine tune that.
And then noise pollution, is there a lot of construction where you live or in your workplace? Using earplugs and lowering that noise pollution, that stress level on your body. Not taking antibiotics unless you really need them. Antibiotics are a very important thing that save lives, but excess use of them can really be hard on our system and really increase our inflammation. And then the last one, look at your lawn You know, are you putting down pesticides and then going out and playing with your dog and rolling around with your kids in the lawn? We want to like lower that exposure. Hopefully not, right? Or even our closet. When you take your dry cleaning and you're picking that up, taking that bag and throwing it away, not leaving it in your closet is super important.
And maybe even evaluating some of your cleaning products, your clothes, detergents, if need be.
Absolutely. Mindy, why don't you give us a few tips on our internal environment?
As a yoga instructor, I'm really big on yoga now. The last 8 years that I've been feeling better, 7.5-ish, I began studying yoga and have become a certified instructor now. So you can call me a true yogi if you want. I love yoga for every aspect of it, and the meditative part. I feel it is so critically important to focus on meditating every day, even if it's just for a minute. You'll obviously get better and better the more you do it. And I am a big proponent of that. And literally we could do a whole nother call just on meditation, just on yoga.
I agree.
Right? And so I have had people say, well, I don't like yoga. I tried it 7 years ago or 10 years ago, whatever. And I just didn't like, I'm not very flexible. And my suggestion is find a teacher that really connects, that you connect with and you like the style, and don't use that as a barometer whether you like yoga or not, that you're not flexible. Just go and just listen to your body and notice the changes that take place, very much like healthy habits. You'll just see these incremental little changes, and you'll just get a little bit more flexible as you go into that journey. But getting out and about, just being active and enjoying outside, enjoying nature, and enjoying it with other people as well. I remember traveling through China, and we were hiking, and we came across a tree. It had a placard, and that tree was 1,300 years old. I just couldn't help but hug that tree. It was like, wow, this is the oldest tree I've ever met. But just being out in nature, there is so much out there to just deep breathing and just feel of the benefits. I love treating my body with a massage, or just treating myself with something healthy is another aspect of just focusing on what's going to be good for me. Laughing is huge. Every day we need to just notice opportunities to just laugh. I remember one convention going to, it was probably my first or second convention, we actually had a laughter class where we just did laughter therapy. And that was really kind of fun. But laughing is great. Either laughing at something we did ourselves or laughing at something that's happening around us. It can be really healing and give us an opportunity to let go of any kind of external stresses. And obviously focusing on the positive, having that mindset. There were times when I was going through my journey with fibromyalgia that I wasn't so positive. I allowed that image to become a part of who I was and limit me. And being with Optavia, and again, learning so much about mindset and that improvement that can happen as we allow ourselves to just look on the positive side. I'm a firm believer there is the bright side to everything. There's a silver lining, and we can find it if we look.
I love that, Mindy. So just to wrap up, what I think it would be helpful to kind of reflect, and each one of you who are listening to this, you probably have a health coach. If you don't, then make sure you find one. And as we go through each element, we like to just kind of like bounce our ideas off of our coach after we're done. So I would like to do that with you, Mindy, to give them an example.
Let's do it.
Okay. So what does this element mean to you right now, Mindy?
This element really helps me understand and watch a little bit closer every day what I'm eating. We just have gone through Thanksgiving. We're coming on Christmas now, and there's a lot of stuff around. There's a lot of opportunities to eat any kind of treat. Neighbors bring us things. There's office parties. There's just a lot of yumminess around us. But then when you eat it, you don't feel so good. And so I'm reminded of a quote. Do you remember I was sharing it with you last night? Do you remember who that was by? Stephen R. Covey?
Stephen Covey, yes.
Yeah? Okay. I love his material, and he teaches that it's easier to say no when there's a deeper yes burning inside. And so learning more and more about inflammation and learning more and more about what I'm eating and how it affects the inflammation in my body, and having that deeper yes just burning inside of me and knowing how I'm going to feel makes it so much easier to say no.
I love that. Such a great way to wrap up this element, Mindy. And just to close up, make sure that you're checking out the YouTube channel and to the Optavia playlist and getting all of these great playbacks. And we want you to join us next week for your Lifebook Element 21, where we're going to ask the question, do you need to supplement? And I just love about the Habits of Health transformational system that it is all about making sure that you're taking your health to the next level. It's not just about getting to a healthy weight. It's not just about exercise. There's so many more things that affect our overall health that are so super important. So again, thank you, Mindy, for joining us, and have a great week.
This audio may have contained the personal testimonials of some independent Optavia coaches or clients of Optavia. The results relayed in these messages are based on the unique experiences of the participants, and we cannot guarantee like or similar outcomes. While you may be inspired by these accounts, please note that any stories of success have not been verified, and your individual path to optimal health will vary. As always, it is our recommendation that you consult with a healthcare provider before starting a weight loss program. In addition, this audio may have contained income or earnings representations of some independent Optavia coaches. Optavia makes no guarantee of financial success. Success with Optavia results from successful sales efforts, which requires hard work, diligence, skill, persistence, competence, and leadership. Please see the Optavia Income Disclosure Statement for statistics on actual earnings of coaches under the U.S. Compensation Plan, which differs from the International Compensation Plan. Yours in health, the Optavia team.